what have you learned now through these 4 companies, 5 projects, 6
Yeah.
projects? You've incubated stuff.
Yeah.
When you look back at this, decade of work or more now, what do you think is at the core of creating startups
Well, I mean, I think
and
that
being a founder?
the most important thing, really, the kind of meta level important thing is to know yourself. I think most people do not spend enough time understanding themselves and understanding what are you good at and what are you not good at. And for the things that you're good at, how do I like focus on those things and do more of them? And for the things you're not good at, how do I either improve or how do I delegate those to someone else? I think most founders hit a wall because they're doing something, it starts working, and then they don't get out of their own way. They insist, they think because I created the product and it worked, which there's a dose of survivorship bias there, I am gonna all my decisions are right. So I want to micromanage kind of all these other parts of my company, or I want to make all these decisions, or my ego is such that I don't get out of the way of these other people I brought into the company to let them operate. And I feel like that's a very common problem that I see all the time. And that's a problem that I've had in my life, throughout my life, that I've, kind of only, in the last maybe 5 or 6 years really understood deeply.
So is that self-awareness
Yeah.
and identifying your superpower?
Yeah. What's your superpower? And
What
how do
is
you
yours?
focus on that?
Do you
I think
think?
I'm a very good salesperson. I think I'm a very good hype man. I think I'm very, so that applies to all the sales like things. So fundraising, recruiting, sales, actual sales. I think that's kind of one of my superpowers. I think I also have a very deep well of confidence that, myself and the right people can build anything that you set your mind to. And I think that really has put me on the path to say, oh, whatever startup it is, I could figure that out.
See, those are superpowers that I think people sometimes underestimate the value of.
Yeah.
Because the ability to sell and get people to pay attention to what you're doing is such an amazing superpower. I share that superpower with you. It's like kind of why we vibe, I think, is because getting people to just even recognize the existence of what you're doing in such a busy world.
Exactly.
But then combining it with the blind faith that it's all going to work out. And don't worry.
Exactly.
See, I added that skill later in life too, where I just said, listen, looking back on the last 20 years, it's always worked out. So let's not assume that it's not going to work out. Let's assume it's going to work out.
Yeah.
Right. And then Justin TV probably just burned that. It's into your thing.
You have to have faith. I always tell people, when I was a partner at Y Combinator, I would spend time telling every class that came in that I would tell my group, look, here's my story. If we can do it, you have no excuse, because this is the stupidest idea with people who had no skills, who went through an 8-year journey that mostly you would have given up on. And then on the back end of it, created something pretty amazing. And so, you have to have that confidence and you have to have that self-belief, even if you're kind of taking on faith.
Yeah. And you just surround yourself with people who are good at the other stuff.
Exactly.
This is what people underestimate. It's good to have the 60% capacity to be a developer.
Yeah.
And then recognize shit, I am not the world-class developer. I can hack my way through stuff.
Yeah.
But that's not me.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I started developing, I was just I don't enjoy this. I want to go talk to people about what we're building. I don't want to sit here quietly for 12 hours and write code. It's other people, it's their greatest joy.
I actually did really like writing code, but I felt like after a while, it's a much more efficient use of time for other people to do it.
Yes, for sure. Tell me about your journaling. I know that you've...
Yeah. So I've been hardcore on this mindfulness stuff in the past year. And
was there a thing that triggered it? Were you feeling anxiety? Were you feeling...
Yeah. So Atrium was very stressful, actually, because we'd grown, we grew this company in headcount very quickly and obviously raised a lot of money. And I think the expectations are very high. And when you have high expectations, it is easy to get trapped in the expectation feedback loop where you are worried you're not fulfilling them. And then you are feeling bad. And then, that's a cycle.
Right.
And so at a certain point, I was like, this is not good for me, and this is not sustainable, and I need to figure out how I deal with the external circumstances independently. I make my mindset independent of external circumstances.
Right.
And so, because no matter where you are, you can always either perceive things as negative or positive, right? People would be like, oh, you already started $1 billion company, you already it's have done so well. Like, why would you be stressed? But you're like, oh, well, I've made promises for this next one, and I want to build it to this next level, et cetera, et cetera. And so, and if I get through those problems, there's going to be a new set of problems. And if I get through those problems, there's going to be a new set of problems, right? And expectations. And so I started looking for ways to improve my own stability and make my own, mental health independent of those external circumstances. And the things that I first started off with, like, okay, I'm going to diet better. I'm going to eat better, right? So that was one thing. Started eating keto, which is really good for me because I'm very carb sensitive. And then I started exercising regularly. So, trainer shows up 3 times a week, try to do something every day, but like have these like regular exercise, right? Those are kind of basics everyone knows about. But then my friend of mine recommended this 5-minute journal app, which is like a gratitude journal.
What's the name of it?
5-minute journal.
5-minute journal.
Yeah. And this app, very simple, but amazing. It's just every day you enter in the 3 things that you're going to do, that you're grateful for that day, and the 3 things you're going to do to make that day great. And then there's like an affirmation section. And I was skeptical actually when I heard of it and he was telling me about it, but I thought I'll just try it for a week, because if I try it for a week, that's 5 minutes times 7, 35 minutes. That's not a lot of cost.
No.
And after a week, I felt much happier because it recontextualized everything that's happening as like in the greater context of all these good things that are going on.
Right.
And that I actually am happy every day. And if there's like, oh, I have a bad meeting, or I don't know, something bad happened in the company, it's like not the end of the world. And you kind of remember, like you've probably experienced this throughout your career, the things that you worry about that seem like the end of the world, today, in a year, you're probably going to look back on that and think you're going to not remember it.
Right.
Or you're going to think, well, that was an experience I got through, so I have some like positive memories of that.
Yeah.
So, I feel like that recontextualizing it like that in the present is very valuable.
For sure, yeah.
And that that's another thing that made me significantly happier. And then the last, the other thing that I've been doing is I started meditating every day. I've been like doing transcendental meditation, which is kind of
you're doing TM.
Yeah. And so
you have a guru.
40
Did you
minutes
get your
a day.
word?
I got my word.
You got your word. Don't tell anybody.
Yeah, I'm not going to. My
Don't
magic word.
You got your magic word, your mantra.
My mantra. And my teacher, amazing teacher. And I've been doing that. And I feel like I've just had a series of amazing days. And
amazing.
It feels good. Yeah.
Yeah. I think anybody who's attracted to entrepreneurship, like they're going to be a very considered, in their own head, thinking about things type person. And when you think about things like to the extent you need to when you're the leader of a company and $75 million comes in the bank, or for exec $3 million, and it's working or it's not working, your mind is going to spew a stream of every possible permutation of what you're experiencing. And what's your job as CEO? Hire the smartest people you can find.
Yeah.
And then when they can't solve a problem, they come to you.
Yeah.
Congratulations. They solved the 100 easy problems and they brought you the 12 that are just seemingly intractable or infuriating or anxiety producing. And the ability to sort of distance yourself from that stream of just word vomit salad coming out of your brain constantly. That's what meditation really does, is it gives you that little space.
Absolutely.
Where you're like, oh, my mind is anxious about we lost our top person, or, we got a competitor, whatever it is. You can just quiet it.
Exactly. Having that disconnect between all the external circumstances that are happening, but also your own emotions and thoughts, which you don't control. And then realizing that you're just that one step behind that. You're the person who's observing those things happening.
Yeah.
Is very powerful. And I think the more it's not like a light switch. You can't just like flip it and you're like internalize it. It's like something you have to practice every day. And to me, that was kind of my biggest learning of 2018 is all, kind of this whole package of like, you can control your own happiness. I never thought that before. I actually thought people's baseline happiness was out of their control and was completely in the control of like external circumstances or whatever.
Yeah.
And that is, I don't know, that's probably the most valuable thing I've ever learned in my life.
Yeah, it's super powerful. I think that's why so many, if you look at Headspace and Calm, we're investors in Calm. And
amazing.
Well, I mean, it was like 5 years ago, I had Alex too on the podcast.
Yeah.
And talk about like founders who are underestimated. Like, the number one rule I have about investing is don't underestimate anybody.
Yes.
Because how many times do you see people who were awkward?
Yeah.
I mean, the video of you reading that script
wasn't my finest moment.
If you type in awkward,
that shows up
founder into YouTube, it's in the top 7. I think it's number 6. It's awkward founder. Boom.
Yes.
But like everybody's awkward at the beginning. And then I was just sitting there looking at Alex and I just thought, that guy's going to change the world. Like he's so right about meditation. This is 5 years ago.
Yep.
And I thought about the $1 Million Homepage. You remember he did that project?
Yeah.
And anybody who builds product like you do would look at that and go, that is such a genius meme, easy to understand construct. It's almost like the perfect startup that you could build right now. The two of us could build it in a day and launch it on the world and make $1 million. It's like that perfect, it's like a perfect scene in a movie or a perfect hook in a song.
Yep.
And everybody else looked at it as a scam.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't look at that as a scam. You'd think of like,
it was
wow.
a crazy idea. It was during that phase we were talking about where people were just trying different stuff. Yeah. And I love that.
Yeah. And then he does Calm, and I was like, oh, that's totally going to be big. Little did I know that Trump would become president and send everybody into derangement syndrome. What makes you happy today? Like when you wake up in the morning, you seem like a very positive guy. Like we follow each other on social, and you're like, you seem super considered and happy now. What when you wake up in the morning, what makes you happy when you write in that gratitude journal? What do we see in that gratitude journal?
I mean, it is the stuff that you would expect, right? I have great health. I have a great relationships with my wife, my family. My brothers live with me in apartments underneath mine. I get to see my family. I get, I have great friends who I've been on this journey with for a decade now. Really great team at Atrium who is very independent, the smartest people I could find, right? Who are like solving those problems. Really great opportunity, like to be in a world. I think about this every day. There have been 100 billion people who have ever walked on this earth. What percentage do you think you are in terms of like your life? Like you and I are probably in the top at least 10 million, maybe million.
In terms of success.
Success, opportunity, health.
That is something really to consider, because if you just think about if we had been born 40 years ago, before computers, and in Sri Lanka or Bangladesh, in the lower caste, like what would our lives have been? We would be sitting there like doing some menial work, trying to figure out how much food we could accumulate for our families to survive.
Exactly. I would have been a farmer at any other time in history,
Right.
And so to me, I think about that and I'm like, wow,
what a privilege.
I am so lucky.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And so crazy. I don't know. That's one of the things. I also do negative visualization. I think about like, what are all the bad things that could happen to me? And
that's a smart one.
And then it's like, how would I react? I would really try to visualize it and then think, you realize two things. Number one, you will adapt. The human mind is very powerful. You'll adapt to any circumstance eventually. And then the second thing is you wake up in your real life and you're like, this is amazing.